Hello and thank you for joining me. Due to some visa complications, I'm once again in New York City. But to make the most of my time here, I want to bring you some dishes inspired by this great city that I once called home. Today we look at one of my favorite desserts of all time, tiramisu. Coffee and booze, what could go wrong? A great tiramisu is hard to beat, and it comes together easily. First, let's get our ingredients together. Catch a train downtown and head to your favorite old coffee shop. Marvel at all the options. Get a bag of some darkly roasted beans. Grab a cup of coffee while you're at it. Slip into a park and enjoy a bit of serenity for a minute. This isn't so bad for a concrete jungle. Back on the train. Let's head to the old neighborhood. Astoria. Stop by the best Italian market on the block. Allow yourself to get distracted by all the sandwich options for a moment. But don't forget the mascarpone and ladyfingers. Pop across the street to the Key Foods for some eggs and heavy cream. Key Foods used to sponsor Julia Child's show back in the day. Now let's get back to Manhattan. The guy at the Italian market actually talked me into a soppressata sandwich, so let's take a lunch break in a pleasant little courtyard. Now that we're refueled, let's head to a well-established wine shop for some marsala or anything else you might need. And lastly, let's grab 4 shots of espresso from a nearby coffee shop. Alright, now that we've gathered all the supplies, let's put it together. I have here 100 grams of egg yolks, which is about 6 large eggs worth, 90 grams of granulated sugar, 250 grams of mascarpone, 250 grams of heavy cream, 300 grams of strong coffee, 4 shots of espresso, 30 grams of coffee concentrate, 30 grams of sweet marsala, approximately 27 ladyfingers, and some cocoa powder for dusting. Let's talk coffee first. Remember I said we are using a dark roast, in this case a Peruvian French roast. You can always tell a dark roast by the dark coloration as well as the oily sheen. I'm just using a French press and brewing with a bit more coffee than normal for an extra strong end product. I'm using slightly less water than I need because I'm making up the difference with some ice, because we want the coffee mixture to be cold when we go to use it. With our coffee brewed, let's put together our soaking mix. I have our strong coffee, our 4 shots of espresso, our coffee concentrate, which is just an extra concentrated cold brew I made, and the 30 grams of marsala, but feel free to add a splash more if you think it needs it. Some people even reach for the amaretto. And just to round things out ever so slightly, I'm adding about a teaspoon of sugar to this mix. Now that our soaking mix is complete, let's talk eggs. First off, I think it's important to honor the chickens that make our world go round and buy eggs from birds that have decent lives. As for separating egg yolks from the whites, I simply go in with my hands and let the egg whites slip off between my fingers. Some people like using the eggshells, but what's good enough for Jacques Pepin is certainly good enough for me. So let's get those 100 grams of egg yolks in a bowl and add our 90 grams of sugar. I'm just going to whisk that vigorously until the yolks have turned a pale yellow and the mixture has thickened significantly. This is also called the ribbon stage. Pop that into the fridge for a minute while we take care of the cream and the mascarpone. Mascarpone is a little dense straight out of the container, so I'm just getting it into a bowl first and breaking it up with a whisk to make it smoother and easier to incorporate into the whipped cream and egg yolk mixture. Now that it's a little smoother, let's add the whisked egg yolks and stir gently until the mix is homogeneous. Pop that in the fridge for a moment while we whip our cream. I'm going to eat more of this than I probably should, so I'm whipping the cream manually, but feel free to use a gadget. We are taking this cream to a medium peak. Once we have that, start to gently fold it into our egg yolk and mascarpone mix, adding about 1/3 of the cream at a time, folding, not stirring, until homogeneous. And since it's Casual Friday at the office, instead of using a real pastry bag, I'm just going for a plastic storage bag with the corner cut out, using a blender top to keep the improvised pastry bag stable. Alright, now we can set that aside for a moment. So as far as containers are concerned, we have a lot of options. For my showcase tiramisu, I'm going to use this rocks glass. Now we pull out our cold coffee mixture again and have our ladyfingers at the ready. Dunk your ladyfingers in the coffee mixture for a solid 1 second. We're talking a full Mississippi count. Too much longer than that and the cookies get too soft. I determine my glass is about 3 ladyfingers wide, but they need to be trimmed. If your glass is nice and sturdy, you can use the rim to cut the soaked cookies, but use a ring mold or cookie cutter if you don't think your glass is up to it. Now that our first layer of cookies are trimmed, let's put just a little bit of our mascarpone mix in the bottom of our glass. This will make a nice little foundation for our ladyfingers. If you didn't get complete coverage in the base of your glass, give it just a few taps in the palm of your hand to even it out. Now, ever so gently, fit the trimmed ladyfingers into the glass, pressing them a bit to get a snug fit. By the way, make sure to save those trimmed cookie pieces. Now, for repetition. We pipe in a layer of mascarpone mix, tap the glass to even it out a bit, soak our ladyfingers for a second, trim them up, fit them into the glass, repeat. Tiramisu has layers, donkey! End with a layer of mascarpone mix. Looks pretty great already. Sadly, we need to wrap this and refrigerate it for at least 4 hours or preferably overnight. Let's take a look at another vessel you might use when making tiramisu. Here is a common glass food storage container. You already know the drill. Pipe in a bit of mascarpone cream mix, even it out with a few taps, soak your dainty fingers, trim if necessary, and then fit them into the container. Another layer of cream, another layer of cookies, and you'll be there in no time. If you want the top to be extra smooth, don't hesitate to pull out your offset spatula and do a little spackle work. Now this one can join the first one we made in the fridge. And remember all those trimmed scraps? Waste not, want not. Find a container that works for the amount of trim you have. Pipe in a little cream, sprinkle in some cookie crumbs, and you get the idea. I ran out of trimmed bits, so I finished this one with a few whole ladyfingers, and just a little bit of smoothing out with my offset spatula. And then off to the refrigerator. As it turns out, it is a perfect day for a walk in the park. Let's pack our bag and take a stroll. Wow, I really could not have asked for a nicer day. Let's head to the meadow. We used to hang out here sometimes after work in the Jean George days. This looks like a great spot. Let's lay out our little blanket, and now let's dust with a bit of cocoa. And I'm doing this in the grass just so I don't get it all over my plate. And since it's springtime, let's gild the lily and grate a little bit of dark chocolate over this. Now, would you just look at that? What a day! What a dessert! What a city! And of course, don't forget to give it a try. Strong coffee flavor, and not too sweet. A perfect dessert. And take a look at those layers! Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this recipe and this glimpse into New York City. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe. And be sure to let me know in the comments section if you would like to see more cooking videos based around New York City. Until next time, cheers!